All right, we're going to get started. Thank you so much for being here. In case you didn't see the agenda, we're just going to do some brief introductions of each other and of the day, and then Justin and John are going to take us through it.
And Cody too will be popping in
I'll
and out.
be around doing this, but I'll be crossing paths.
Cody's the true magician here, turning the food into compost.
Oh.
John and I are more on the raw material coming in.
We love real life magic. That's why we're here. Okay, so really briefly, we are so grateful to Black Earth Compost, and the we is MassPurg, Clean Water Action, and Community Action Works. We comprise Zero Waste Massachusetts, and very briefly, about almost 20 years ago now, I think it was in 2008, we got together in our coalition, named ourselves Zero Waste Massachusetts because that is exactly what we want. And our first meeting with the commissioner of the DEP back then, we sat down and we asked the Commonwealth to set that as an actual policy goal. So we've been together for about 18 years. We are still making that ask, and we have made a lot of progress along the way. The next step for us is to get to zero food disposal. There's roughly 6 million tons being thrown away in Massachusetts every year. Approximately 23% of that is food, both edible and scraps. None of it should go to landfills or incinerators. That is why we are here today. And so we are really grateful for all of your interest, and we have a videographer, we have a photographer, where's Adam? Oh, right there. And our goal is to have a great time today, but then also to market the Jesus out of composting. There's so many myths and so much misunderstanding, and today is the beginning of real life magic. So thank you again for being here. I'm Janet Donitz from MassPurg, and I'll pass it to my two coalition partners to introduce themselves.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thank you so much for coming today. My name is Amber Schmidt. I'm the New England Zero Waste Organizer at Clean Water Action.
Hi, I'm Leanne Cole. I'm the director with Community Action Works.
And we thought Justin could just give us a brief overview of what's going to happen, and then we're going to popcorn around, and then we'll get on the road.
Okay, thanks for everybody for coming up. Really important to have these conversations, and then for you all to take what you've learned back to your network, and that's how kind of change can happen a bit faster than if we were just here kind of operating in a vacuum. So thank you all for your work.
And what's your name?
I'm Justin, one of the owners at Black Earth. I've been with it since 2011. This is Cody, in charge of the Manchester site, and this is John, who is our municipal coordinator, so involved in having broader conversations with town officials, and then getting the structure of composting in place for a town-wide operation or growing participation in a town. Today we're going to see our Manchester Essex Regional Compost Facility. I think it's properly named. And we'll start down at the beginning, and then material is in that building for about a month. We'll see the inside of the building. That's the most challenging part of composting. It's the first month where it's big piles of food waste, and that's when the water comes out. That's when the smell comes off of it. So that's why we have a nice controlled environment, and that building, along with the biofilter next to it, is why it doesn't smell like there's many tons of food waste composting here. So from there it goes up. Does anybody have a guess of why we're on a hill? It's a capped landfill. So we are truly taking what is, we don't think of composting as new or flashy or fancy. It's actually taking the older way, Mother Nature's way of processing waste, and doing it on top of what we thought was a good idea, and we still currently do, is bury everything in a hole or set it on fire. So those have been the two options for a while, but Black Earth and a couple other companies in the state are making high quality compost, but here we're actually operating on the dated way of waste processing. Quick question, yep.
Yes, I see Black Earth programs like in all different towns.
Yep.
Is this where it's all coming to?
Good question. So this is one of our currently 4 compost sites. So we currently have one here, Framingham, Wareham, and Groton. And we are soon to have one also, hopefully a joint partnership with the town of Lexington, as well as Preston, Connecticut. So we started in Gloucester 2011, handful of residents, and now we hit 45,000 residents, along with about 1,000 commercial entities. We do about 20,000 tons per year across all of our compost sites. But this is kind of the flagship one, and we can go take a look at how it works.
Great. So great. Okay, so we're going to popcorn around. Tell us your name, what town you live in, and if you're affiliated with one of the organizations, give us a shout out. And then a preview when we get back together at the end for Q&A. We're going to redo intros, and you're going to say one thing, the most interesting thing you learned, or something that you want to share about your experience today. Okay, so we went. So you're up.
Hi, my name is Kalita. I used to canvas with MassCard of 2 weeks ago. What was that last thing?
What town do you
Oh,
live in?
I'm from Boston. I live in Dorchester.
Hello everybody, my name is Uno. I'm here with Massberg. I'm one of the assistant directors for the Canvas office, and I'm from Weston.
My name is Ari. I'm another assistant director for the Canvas office, and I'm like in Needham right now, but I'm moving to East Boston. But I'm from LA originally.
My name's Simon. I work at Community Action Works, and I'm the videographer.
I'm Sue Swanson. I'm from Bedford, and with Mothers Out Front, strongly, enthusiastically supporting all you do.
I'm Carolyn. I'm from Bedford, Mothers Out Front.
Molly, Bedford, Mothers Out Front.
Rebecca Pomerantz, also Bedford, Mothers Out Front.
Lucy Weinstein, Bedford, proud to be from Bedford. We have town composting.
Yes.
Love it. Fairly new, right? And I'm originally from New York, but I don't talk like that. But I talk a lot, I'm sorry. And I'm from Mothers Out Front.
And I'm Joan, visiting Bedford from Oakland, California, where we have been composting for at least a decade, maybe more.
My name's Hannah. I'm from Brookline. I used to do some work with the Board of Higher Education, but now I'm canvassing with MassCard.
My name is Carmen. I live in Lynn, but I'm coming with the Bromley Marshall organization, Bromley Marshall team. We're the biggest in here when we started.
Bob Strom from Salem.
Jen Strom from Salem, Massachusetts. He didn't say he's been composting for 40, 50 years because we have one out there. It is a big gardener, and we compost everything that is composted.
Evan Smith, Lynn, Massachusetts, also involved with Bromley Marsh Conservancy, and was invited by Clean Water Action.
Brent Bazelak, Clean Water Action, former National Board member, former killer of medical waste incinerators and solid waste incinerators with the defunct now group of the Haverhill Environmental League. I used to always say, I'm the man from hell. Haverhill.
I can't follow that.
No one ever could.
Bruce Benton, Woburn, no affiliation.
Nick from Billerica.
Carol Hokana from Billerica. We still do our own composting, but we are Black Earth subscribers because we can't compost everything. Like Black Earth.
Carolyn from Beverly. I've been with Black Earth since they started serving Black Earth, and before that, the initiating program in Wenham with Greta Clark. So happy to be here to see the full process.
It's Miranda. I work for MassCard, and I'm from Somerville.
Cody, Black Earth Compost.
I'm John. I'm with Black Earth Compost. I'm the municipal coordinator, so I work with towns to help roll out programs. And I've been here about 2 years, so I've learned a ton in that 2 years, but I'm still fairly new. Learning more every day.
Done, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And don't mind me.
Okay. Great. So we'll take a tour, we'll gather back and have more Q&A and intro. Let's go.
We're going to do the next 500.
Yeah, let's do
And they put a budget for that. So, am I ready to go? Yeah.
All right, pull it in, everybody, pull it in.
That's fine, I'll try to. So it's a very active compost site we have here. As you can tell, BP is in the loader right now, moving material. So this is our receiving bay. This is where material comes in after the route, and it's dumped as pure food scrap right into the building. Right now he's making room for today's material. Will's coming down to move other material. And how it works is we dump inside the building, and then we have a yard waste collection area on the other side of the building, which we can see after that. Those two materials are combined, and oxygen is pushed into the pile. There's an air bed underneath the concrete floor. Can we close the door a little bit? Oh.
Could you say that last part again?
Trying to tell a front end loader to be quiet as long
Could you repeat the last sentence since it was noisy?
I don't like to slow down the process, but we'll make an exception. So materials brought in. BP is going to grab some yard waste to bring back into the building, which he can mix with the food waste. From there, there's an air bed built into the concrete floor, so we can actually push oxygen into the pile. Really all we need in there, the food is already wet, we have the carbon from the yard scraps, and then we just add oxygen. There's nothing else that needs to be added to compost in order to activate the material. In the back corner is a big liquid container. That's the leachate tank. That's all the liquid that pours out of the truck, because food there's a lot of water in it, so we have to have a way to collect that. Up top is a big air pipe that's pulling air out of the building. So the building, when that door is closed, is under negative pressure, and that air comes out the back via a fan we just actually walked past the biofilter. We can see it on the way back up. But all that biofilter is a big cube of composted wood chip. So as you can tell, we don't use a lot of high tech. It's air, it's water, and then it's the material, it's the feedstock that we bring in. In here, piles are turned every week or so?
Every week. Every week
by Cody and his team. And then it's pretty amazing what just 1 month inside this building with proper air control and mixing can do to the compost that we take in. The point of the building is to break it down into material that is not identifiable as food to animals. It's not off-gassing, so it's not going to smell, and it's not going to dump water out. So we'll go back to the top of the site after this and see what comes off the conveyor belt is what brings material up to the top of the site. So Black Earth is really just an aggregator of material. We give it time and the right conditions. We dial in Mother Nature's conditions for optimal composting. And then once it's done composting, we put that material back out, just kind of in a different form, as finished compost. Compost is a term that can be used to describe food scrap, the process of composting, and the finished product that it creates. So we think of ourselves as the local nutrient recycler. So we have nutrients, we have all the fertilizer we need, but unfortunately it's in our waste stream instead of in the compost stream. So that increases local soil health, and it decreases the demand for foreign imported fertilizer. With all the global conflicts going on in the world, and probably will always be, having a local nutrient recycler is vital to like national food stability. So it's beyond, it's not only an environmental win, it can be an economical win, but it's like a global resilient win as well. And that part of the conversation needs to be propped up a bit. Part of the funding for this compost site was actually because compost is a domestic source of fertilizer.
So we have a big foreign dependency on natural gas that turns into nitrogen-based fertilizer. So instead of importing all of that material, we can make it here in a better, more stable form with something that is in the trash. And not only is it in the trash, but where does the trash from Massachusetts go? That is being shipped out to states as far away as Alabama in the hundreds of thousands of tons. Alabama, Ohio, other proximate states, because Massachusetts, we don't have room to build more landfills, and the ones we do have are going to hit capacity by as early as 2035, and we won't have any, which will increase the demand for incineration. After incineration, you still have ash that needs to be landfilled. So our argument and what we're proving is that if you can reduce that total volume of trash, take the compostables out, which account for roughly 30 to 40% of the total volume, you can it's not going to solve the problem, but it can take out half of the problem with all of those wins. And that's our model, is to create many small compost sites across the state, across New England. We call it a decentralized model of composting. Instead of one big site where you have to drive across the state to dump at, we can have many small sites. This is only 3 acres, and we do a lot of composting here. So the more sites we have, the more we can open up more towns, and the less trucking distance to and from to take it there to process it, and that's compared to Alabama. And from is the distribution of composting, whereas trash, it's over. It's a linear model, and we are bending that line to create a circular food-based economy. A lot of our purchasers of the final product that Cody and his team make, and at our other sites, are farmers and backyard growers. So it has a wide effect. The food that you compost with us is recycled back out into that proximate farming and gardening community.
Are there other countries that do this?
Yeah, there's a number of other countries that do this. And then it's different, very different regionally. There was somebody from California here. San Francisco was the first city in the country. Seattle followed, but Massachusetts became the first state to have a statewide ban in 2015, I believe. And that started with 1 ton. If you created more than 1 ton of material, you could not landfill that. They just dropped it to half of a ton a couple of years ago. And then they're going to drop it again to make all schools, to mandate all schools to do it, and then all restaurants, and then all residents. And that slow growth gives us time to build sites like this, to have these conversations. Because if we were to make a quick change tomorrow, just mandate it, other cities have done that, and it actually broke what was good. Because people who weren't really engaged were putting whatever in the pile. And we have a very clean stream. So the more that you force people to rush into it, the higher the potential for contamination. But Austria is probably the best model of a country that does it. They have about 450 compost sites, and it's the size of Maine. So I think Massachusetts it's good, but I mean, in comparison to that, it's a little meager, maybe 15, I would guess.
And
Yeah.
we've just asked them to officially make the commitment by 2032
Oh,
that
great.
will go to 0.
Oh, 32, that's a good timing.
Yeah.
Yep. And then maybe one more piece, and we can have this conversation more up top so we can keep moving, is it's not just about diversion. So towns just want to see diversion away from landfill, away from incinerator, but it's diverted to what? And if you can have people eat the food from a supermarket, that's the best. If you can divert it to animal feed, that's second best, but animals are picky. So the further down the line you get, the more material it can accept. So after that would be composting, and after that would be anaerobic digestion. And maybe that's more of a broader conversation. But you see the tonnage from the state, the food scrap going to anaerobic digestion, skyrocketing, where composting is actually dropping off. And there's a fight for this feedstock right now. And we think that this material needs to be composted. If it's liquid or if it's packaged food from a grocery store, take that to an anaerobic digester. We need to be tactical about diverted to what. And that's probably where I'll leave that for now. We can talk more about the anaerobic digesters if that's interesting.
It is.
Next, I guess we could take a quick peek at our yard waste site, and then we'll go back.
The chairs are still out there.
So this is where we aggregate all of our yard waste, and this site will be full out to here. And once it gets about this full, we have to bring in a shredder because we can't be taking in big logs into the compost building. So we have, it's all carbon-based, but there's some logs. This is for landscapers and residents of Manchester. So this site operates in that we have a public-private partnership. The public part is Manchester by the Sea, this is their land, but we have a lease on the land. So we kind of approach towns and we say, can we take over the management of your brush pile? And that is a ton of labor. The grinder's expensive, the people power is expensive. We're also operating the transfer station here as well. We handle all of that if we can take in food scraps as well and use the land for food scrap composting. We also offer lower cost hauling to the town that we operate in. So it's a win for the town and it gives us a nice home base. Yard waste is fairly self-descriptive, but there it is. We separate out the grass for concern of persistent pesticide. A lot of people don't use those chemicals on their grass, but we have no way to verify that, so we just separate it out because those chemicals can make it through the compost process, but the heat of the composting is going to burn up weed seeds. So that is handled by the composting. We also take in a lot of coffee ground, as you can see back there.
Oh my God, I'm seeing.
Yeah, it's good enough to rebrew, I think. And we kind of, Cody and his team add that slowly to the compost pile. It's not as good as you would think it would be. We actually send most of it out with the grass to be composted as more of a grass or field cover. Caffeine is a natural plant inhibitor, so we don't take too much of it into our process. And it compacts a lot, and composting is all about oxygen. And if you're plugging all the pores with coffee ground, then it's going to plug up all the potential for that.
So the individuals and restaurants collect it separately?
Individuals, we pick up household, door to door. For something like coffee grounds, that's an outside hauler taking in a 10-yard tip of it, but for commercial establishments, we have larger bins that we pick up.
I put coffee grounds right into the compost, is that wrong?
That is fine, but when we're talking about a pure single volume of it like that, that's a different beast.
Question. You said that you operated the transfer station and this is a capped landfill. Was this the transfer station prior to Black Earth, and did that help in the permitting process, which I know can be difficult to site compost facilities?
Maybe a Cody question when it comes to pre-existing.
Yeah, no, I mean the transfer station was pre-existing. It was here. I don't know if that had anything to do with our permitting process here, but
It may have helped because if it was approved for a landfill, but those rules may have changed because the landfill was active in like the early 90s. But to get that permit is very strict, and they're super particular about watershed, potential neighbor smells, things like that.
Seems just like the scalability of being able to have us at a transfer station seems to make quite a lot of sense.
It does, especially if there was a yard waste compost site there as well. Yeah, and we've added a number of things to the compost, to the transfer station. We pick up stretch film plastic, recycling that can't go in your curbside bin, electronics, things like that. We can go see that. To the top of the landfill? Yeah? Okay. Maybe I think back around there.
I'm gonna take a
I always like to, but I don't, it's like people in the crowd aren't aware of it at all. It's kind of it's so anaerobic without all this stuff. Sit down for hours every day.
Yeah.
That's what I try to tell.
All right, everybody. So we're now at the top of the landfill, and this is where the rest of the processing happens. We've already achieved pathogen kill down in the building. Temperatures were tracked, air was controlled, and time was allowed. And now material has come up the conveyor belt, and this is what food waste can look like after just 1 month. It's composting, it's not finished. I can still feel it's pretty warm. We may need to add some water to it because it's a little dry. You want it about the dampness of like a wrung out sponge. So we have 8 ways to add water to it. But that's all that's really gonna be added up here. We may run a pipe under the piles as well to add more oxygen. It's called static aerated piles. And this is the goal of the building. Beautiful, right? Seagulls don't like it, animals don't like it. There is a smell, but it doesn't smell bad. And now it's much easier to deal with. So up here, material's gonna be up here in these windrows, these long rows of material for another 4 or 5 months. And that's what the building does. Yeah, building. Material comes up the conveyor, and so we had questions of contamination. We used to ask drivers or site folk or anybody who is willing to pick contamination out of the pure food waste once it was dumped. That is not fun, and it is more difficult. So our steps to get rid of contamination starts with prevention. So if we come to a stop and it's clearly contaminated, there's no metric or percent that we can put on it because it's just impossible to know. We only get the top snapshot of the material when we open the bin. So it's driver discretion to reject it. Photo is taken, that photo is automatically emailed to the customer, be it a resident or be it a commercial location. So prevention, but once it's in the truck, we do get it, it's coming here. So we let the material compost for a bit in the building, and then on this conveyor belt, we have a picking station. And right now, before robots take over, our fingers are the best way to pluck contamination. The reason we let it compost first is because you can really see what is compostable, what isn't, and the compostable bags and other BPI TUV certified compostables have really broken down quite a bit. So we're not going to mistakenly take those out. It comes down, we pick it, and then up here it's just pick whenever we have people and time to do so. And the material ages in place for a few more months. Material's turned along the way to remix, reoxygenate, and rehydrate the material. And then it is put into our Dopstat. That's called a trommel screen. We can walk over there in a minute and see how that works. But basically it's a big screened drum that rotates. The fines, which is the final step of composting before it cures, those are fines. So that's the stuff that we sell as finished compost. But I believe it's a 3/8 or half-inch screen, I should know that, on the trommel screen. And there is a particular item that is smaller than that. And that item is fruit stickers. So we harp on pulling fruit stickers out quite a lot, and it's for a good reason, because anything smaller than that screen might slip through and get into our finished material. So we actually do another hand pick of the screen material to take as many out as we can.
And we should pull them off before we put them in the compost bin.
Yes. What do they say? An ounce of prevention worth more than a pound of cure. So, fruit stickers and potentially straws as well.
We got a truck coming in with
Is he coming? You can come this way.
Or no.
Oh, don't know it. So that is the finished product. As you can also see, we walked past. I just like to note the fact that we do rely on fossil fuels. We should be talking about that. We're not trying to claim that we're purely a zero emission company, but we have actually done carbon reduction studies on our total carbon impact, and we're actually able to have carbon credits because we are a net reducer of them, according to that study that was done. It's super comprehensive. It's on our website. But for now, as tech grows, as electric trucks and screeners and big equipment come online, that's definitely something we're looking to invest in. But diesel run the trucks, a lot of the equipment in here, oil, tires. So I just wanted to note that, and if there's any questions about that, happy to talk about it as well. Yeah, any questions?
Yeah, so my parents have Black Earth Compost, so I didn't like sign up for it or anything. What is the education like process online for like not contaminating when you're throwing stuff?
So we have a lot of PDFs. There's some video and description, and then really once you get a bin rejected, and you got to hold on to it, or unfortunately put it in the trash. That's kind of a learning process, and it's the ongoing communication of it. We're never going to get to zero contamination, but we're always getting better at it. But we have 45,000 people that do it well, and our rejection, the number of bins that we actually reject is pretty low, and it gets better.
We have a big piece of paper that says exactly what we can put it on, what we
Yay
can,
or
and we
nay?
just put it
Yay or
right
nay?
inside our cabinet, right above our compost bin.
Yeah.
You sell your compost nearby?
Nearby? Oh yeah, we have so where does the product go? That's farmers, or we'll send out big trailers of it to landscapers or organic lawn companies. We have hardware stores. We also
Customers.
Yeah, either directly to the customer or retail with like 100 or so, kind of more mom and pop style garden centers.
So could you come here with a pickup truck and say, hey, I want to put however many yards fit?
People do. Yep. Okay. Yep. Here or any of our other sites. So we make compost. We make leaf mulch. We make a potting soil, and we just started. The potting soil, but we also just started the biochar compost as well. And we can see that around the corner. But biochar is basically it's cooked wood byproduct from the logging industry. That's cooked at about 1,000 degrees, I believe, without oxygen, and then that just creates this like honeycomb piece of carbon that will be So it stores carbon in the ground, but primarily if you mix it with compost, that biochar holds the nutrients. So if it rains on your compost, that's not going to flush out the nutrients. So it holds water, holds nutrients, and it's just an incredible product that is starting to get more of a buzz. And so we thought, why not mix it with our compost and see how it goes.
We have a question over there.
Yeah.
Is this a profitable business for you?
Yeah. Is it profitable? Yes, and it has to be. It's a privately owned company. I guess like money is the energy of a business.
Okay,
so
it's not just barely. It's okay.
Yeah, it's okay, and it's allowing us. In order to grow our mission, we need to be financially sound enough to invest in the future of it. So that is one of the, so it's a good question because there's some pushback we get when we announce in a town, okay, Black Earth's coming to town, and then it's like there's some criticism that, oh, another for-profit company coming in, or oh, more diesel trucks on the road, oh, more plastic bins. And if I were to respond directly to that, I would just ask what happens with the material now. And I think a vote with $1 is this kind of the most direct vote we have. So do you want to see this succeed? Pay for that. If you want to see this succeed, pay for that. And our model is to lower the cost the more people that come in. So the more dense a population of a town, the more densely packed it is with customers, the more efficient it is with us. So we have pricing tiers that drops the price for every, say, 500 people that sign up.
Thank you.
I just had a question. I've had a lot of questions about, or like criticism about the actual bins and rodents getting in. And I'm assuming that this is a very successful bin because rodents haven't gotten in. Is there, like, what was the mechanic or technology that went into it? Or like, what can I say to people who have that?
Who are worried about rats or rodents?
Yes.
Oh, again, I would ask, where is it now? Is it in the trash can where you'll still have that problem? We're certainly not in the rodent yet, like we're not going to reduce it. But I think that if you're just separating material, you can actually clean a compost bin better than you can a big dumpster. So if you're pulling the food out, your dumpster's going to be cleaner, it's just going to be full of actual trash. But there are locks that some people put on, bungees or whatever, if they do have raccoons are pretty smart. It's not a massive problem for us. We do hear about it, but there is that some people don't hit the clasp on their green bin to actually close it, and if it tips over like that, it's going to stay closed, but you have to punch the lock closed. So there are ways that you can seal it a bit better.
You have community bins, right? Community drop-off bins in certain areas.
Yep.
And those are rodent-proof. Those don't seem to have.
So it varies. We're trying to get. There's a couple companies that make big steel enclosures for our bin to stay in, but they're a few $1,000s. There's City Bin, Big Belly, Metro Store, a couple other ones. Those are great. It makes the like Project Oscar in Boston has, I believe, Big Belly units, and they're just solid. So it's like, how much defense do you want to invest in? Other than that, some communities just put a padlock on it, which is okay. So a couple different approaches, but like we get seafood restaurants. So I think if a seafood restaurant can do it well, I think, that's probably the hardest because that's going to smell the most, and it's these big bins compared to our residential size ones.
We just met a couple of weeks ago with this recycling director for the city of Cambridge, and he said, in fact, he's recruited some of the apartment buildings specifically as a rodent reduction measure. Like, they're not as interested in the environment, they're interested in getting rid of rodents, and that when the food is separated, and it's not like just put in a plastic bag, it actually does serve to reduce the rodent population. So it's a motivator for some.
Usually you hear about a rodent issue from someone who's resistant for it for other ideas, be it economical or just philosophically. So it just takes a bit of, it takes like a try of it to really tell. And once you start doing it, a lot of your worries are alleviated.
I have a bunch of questions actually. When you were talking about fertilizer, do you make something that can be used as fertilizer directly?
I mean, composting is an organically created fertilizer. It fertilizes plants. There's synthetic fertilizers, which are byproducts of the petroleum industry, made in a laboratory, shipped across sea or mined out of rock, sometimes under the ocean. So it's what is the source of the nutrient base for your fertilizer. Fertilizer, similar to compost, you can have different types. You can have a yard waste compost with not many nutrients in it, still compost. You can have a food scrap compost. So we want to differentiate the types of compost. So these are different types of fertilizers.
But nothing so concentrated like the stuff that you buy.
Like
it's not like a miracle, like a Miracle Grow. Well, the leachate has nutrients in it, but it's super volatile. It's not in a balanced
So what do you
state.
do with the leachate?
The leachate,
That's the liquid?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my next
the leachate is usually resprayed onto the pile to balance the moisture of it, but some of it is trucked out. Correct, Andrew?
We try not to.
Okay.
Very little.
So
Trucked
most
out.
so we need to keep the material moist. So a lot of it, once it heats up, a lot of that water is going to evaporate. So most of the leachate is recycled back on. But Andrew's our head composter here. Been with it for a long time, and yeah. So raw food scrapping, Andrew and his teams take from there.
Yeah, the leachate we want to recirculate inside the building. That's the whole point of the structure. And it's like a high potassium thing, and the nitrogen kind of stays in the compost. So the leachate is valuable, and the structures, like actual infrastructure, helps us retain it and get the most out of it. So that's the kind of like compost facilities we're trying to build is, modern indoor actual infrastructure. Like composting is more than just a farmer in a field pushing piles over with a tractor. Like if you go to Europe, there's actual infrastructure, and it makes sense, right? What other public utility operates in a field with no electricity? None. Like the fire department doesn't do that. Wastewater treatment plant costs millions of dollars. So a puny $2 million compost facility should be easy for municipalities to cover. Yeah.
We are busy in Bedford. Molly, Mothers Out Front in Bedford, trying to get people to adopt composting. And it's amazing how many people, they look like a deer in the headlights when you ask them to do it. I was once one of those people. What do you see out there as like the thing that helps somebody say, okay, I'm going to put my toe in here?
Yeah, and I think it's similar to what Andrew was saying about how composting doesn't have to be a farmer in the middle of a field. It's normal. And it just takes a couple of conversations to do it. People think it's going to be more I think the complication mentally, it's like another thing to manage. But really, the moment you put the banana peel in the compost bin versus the trash, like you have to, jump in a little bit. Maybe they could put it in a neighbor's bin and try it for a week like that. Once you try it, it's like becomes so ingrained. It's not difficult. We try to make it as affordable as possible with those prices coming down. There's a perception of stink and rot, but whereas we have it in certified compostable liners, that keeps it clean. We have bin washing that we offer as a service. One of the concerns, but it's a resistance based off of perception rather than like a experience.
Yeah, that's something that we're trying to crack right now. Crack that code. Like, so what converted you to try?
I wanted to grow tomatoes in my yard, and I looked at all the food I was throwing out, and I'm like, this is ridiculous. And I started growing tomatoes. And then I was like, somebody came to my door and said, well, we're going to start separating trash. I was like, you're not going to ask me to do something else. I had a full-time job and a small kid, and I didn't want another thing. But as soon as I was like, wait a minute, this is so much smart. I think sometimes it's cultural. We have a whole lower income area of Bedford where recycling and composting is just vehemently resisted. And I think it's really hard for somebody to feel like, well, I can just do this just enough to make me, I'll try this.
Yeah.
It feels to them like once they say yes to one thing, all of a sudden they're going to be on, you know what I mean? That was my thought.
Yep.
If I do this one thing, they're going to come after me for like 10 other things.
Yep. Yeah, I think it's like one thing for us as a company to pitch it because we have that perception of being a big mega corp that's coming in to tell you what to do. But it's like you are the neighbors of these people we are trying to communicate with, and you're clearly at least passionate enough to come to a compost site on a beautiful day. So I think your conversations slowly over time and patience.
Right.
No one's going to be forced into it, and then that's all right.
Kids can convert their parents.
And that's why we think composting in schools is critical. Because, like, what better than the next generation to teach about it?
I thought that was perfect, but I worked at a preschool, and the problem was the smell. But they need to leave it open, like during the day.
Yep.
Do you have suggestions?
You can tie the bag off to the top. You can use multiple containers and close it and spin another one in. There's a couple moves you can make. It's not easy at a school, but it can. We have 300 that do it.
Or you just change the bag out more frequently, like once a day.
Question in the back there?
Analyze the compost for nutrient value?
Yeah, there's extensive, Andrew can get more into that, extensive testing, things we have to test, things we just do proactively test for. I know you're involved, MassPerg is very involved with PFAS prevention from a manufacturer level, and that's critical. But yeah, Andrew, what do we test for?
Sorry, what was your question?
What do we test for?
Analyzing the compost that you produce, is there a nitrogen value and a phosphorus value?
Absolutely, yeah. There's a ton of fertilizer value.
Yeah.
But it's not just in like percent nitrogen, percent potassium, phosphorus, like NPK.
Yeah.
The value of food scrap compost is that it has a whole wide range of nutrients and micronutrients.
Sure.
Right? Whereas like ammonia nitrate only has nitrogen, and no one can live off of that. So it's valuable because it has a little bit of everything. You're taking old food, you're taking all of its nutrients, putting it into the compost, and then you're growing new food out of it. So that's easy to take old food and turn it into new food. And we test for the NPK, calcium, all that. But really, the best thing we do is plant trials, because the plants won't lie. They'll tell you if it has what it needs, and the plant trials speak for themselves. But yeah, all our testing stuff's on our website.
On that note, like the metaphor that was described to me that kind of resonated was, if the soil is a bank account, we've been withdrawing from that bank account for the last 100 years. And composting is one of the only ways we can deposit back into the soil.
Yeah. And so not only is there the fertilizer value in the compost, but you have the organic matter. You put organic matter into a soil, and that's what you're building the soil, because organic matter can hold on to fertilizer. So you put compost down, the crops get a boost from the nutrients there, great. Now you come through and you spray your liquid fertilizer, whatever it is, the organic matter in your soil is going to hold on to that liquid fertilizer. So you're getting more bang for your buck from that next spray. So it's a multifold benefit for fertility.
Yep.
I just wanted to ask a little bit more about the waste bans that you mentioned. How were those enforced, and are they successful?
Yeah.
And I know it's like very ambitious and it's like gradual. So
Yeah.
if you could.
Yeah, they've been very successful without a ton of enforcement, which is kind of rare. But the enforcement has increased. So it started at a full ton. If you made that, you couldn't landfill it or incinerate it of this food scrap. And then they dropped it to half of a ton a couple years ago, I think 2019 or between 2019 and 21. Every time they did that, we saw an increase. The first increase was from big supermarkets, from even malls, universities. Then now we're at like the mid to large size restaurants. So they're approaching it from kind of like the big producer level down to the resident, which it makes so much sense. Other states have said everybody residentially is going to do it tomorrow. The quality of the feedstock dropped. We have a great thing going in Massachusetts, so I think patience. And John Fisher at the Mass DEP has been very tactful of the rollouts. So how do they monitor it? It's not easy. So they monitor it at transfer stations. They'll inspect loads from a trash truck. If there's a lot of organics, then they'll track it back to the producer of it. They don't have the time, staff, or resources to go face to face to a restaurant, but they do send letters. We've got a number of chain restaurants to start composting, which is a nice surprise, because for us to communicate with a large national chain would be impossible. So the only way is if that enforcement comes from the state.
So I have to jump in, because one of the reasons that our coalition exists, and I agree, DEP, they're an excellent agency and we work closely with them. But we did a report in 2022, I think it was, not about food, because I feel like it was still new. But for example, paper and cardboard has been banned from disposal since the 90s. And some of the groups, put their noses in the waste composition studies and found that there was more than a ton of paper and cardboard in the waste stream. And so we did a push. We wrote a report, we met with DEP, we met with legislators saying you have to up your investment in the enforcement staff. I mean, most things don't just happen. So at the risk of bragging about our coalition, I mean, that is one of the things that we do, is pay attention to
They added 7 new enforcement officers
Yeah.
to their work.
Yeah, and I'm not saying this to criticize DEP. We work really closely with them. I think all of us sit on the Solid Waste Advisory Committee, which is part of the division, the Solid Waste Division. But I just want, nothing.
Yeah.
Usually things don't just happen.
Yeah.
When they go awry. Brent knows, he's been there. We pushed hard for more enforcement, and we continue to do that. And I was talking to Taylor earlier. He reminded me, sorry to get off track of food, give me 30 more seconds. In 2022, the DEP issued a ban on the disposal of textiles. And so Taylor reminded me, next year it's time to do a 5-year look at how are we doing, educating people, giving them the infrastructure, mobilizing folks to understand that, we can't just toss it anymore. Here are the alternatives, and getting everyone's buy-in to understand, what the benefit is. So Taylor reminded me that
that's great.
we got to do work on textiles too.
I think the only thing we would ask to the state or to MassPERG is just take a look at the tonnage that has gone to anaerobic digestion and the tonnage that has gone to composting, and the unlevel playing field of incentives.
Totally.
So right now we take it here, we let what we think is best guide our company. We create a high quality value compost in the end, but that's just sold at market rate. When it's taken to an anaerobic digester, there's added incentives on the back end to sell it as green energy. So of course more material is going to go to where the top dollar revenue comes in, but not the highest use. So something to level the playing field for the compost that we sell, and compare that to the renewable energy credit, because it's really, there's a battle for food scraps right now, and unfortunately, based off the numbers, they are winning in that total volume going up. And that's not to say that anaerobic digesters are bad, because there are use cases, but for the material we take in, that's kind of what they seem to be coming for, to go to. Because so
yeah, so there's 2 different industries here, right? There's the organic waste recycling industry, which includes food donation, animal feed, compost, right? Where we're taking the nutrients in the food scraps and getting it to its highest use. And then there's a whole other industry over here, the energy industry, that takes stuff and burns it, right? And they get a lot of money for burning it, right? And what that's doing is it's dragging food down the highest and best use chain towards burning, right? It's crippling our industry's ability to do what we're supposed to do. And when we're talking about food waste, that's what we're supposed to do, highest and best use. Let's think of cardboard, all right? What if you could convert cardboard into methane, and
same idea,
and burn it, right? They'd be doing that, and then cardboard would be pulled away from carton recycling and all that.
Right.
Why does that not happen? Because everyone can see you don't burn cardboard. Let's turn cardboard into cardboard. It's the same thing with food. Let's turn food into food. But somehow, the energy industry, through the technology anaerobic digestion, has subverted the organic waste management industry.
And there's also been more, I think, grant dollars that have gone towards AD than to compost facilities as well. So that, I think, also probably offsets as well. If they're getting more, they're open to more grant dollars, then they're going to build more facilities.
Yes, there's more grant dollars both for building a facility, and there's tax credits, and they're these companies like BlackRock owns Vanguard. Give me a break. That's who we're up against here.
And Vanguard runs a big AD operation.
Yeah. Vanguard's one of the main digesters here.
That conversation could easily be tethered into your work of PFAS as well. Because if the anaerobic digester is co-located with a wastewater treatment plant, and the one in Andover is the Great Lawrence Sanitation District, so food scrap in, and that food scrap had to be depackaged, and microplastics get into it via depackaging, mixed with sewer sludge to create some methane. The net on that between how much energy it creates, how it demands to run the machine versus creates, is some of the most difficult numbers to get.
Yeah, they don't make a lot of energy.
So the energy is suspicious, and then what is left afterwards? There's a dry and a liquid component of that digest state.
Where all the nutrients live.
Where all the nutrients live, but also where all the PFAS lives, where all the microplastics live. So you can't just apply that to grow food at this point. So we're taking in all this high quality material, making electricity out of food and sewer sludge, which is strange. And then you're left with kind of a mess afterwards that usually you have to pay to get rid of, that maybe you're able to cap a landfill with it.
Yeah, interested in policy things that can be done. Watch the most recent organic subcommittee meeting. Were you there?
I was.
Yeah. It was kind of like compost versus anaerobic digestion. And it's something the state needs to hear because no one else is saying this stuff.
Yeah, that's such a good reminder. Thank you.
Aren't there other methane resources besides that are outsourcing everywhere? Or, I don't know if they are in Massachusetts, but...
Or there's other ways to generate it via wind, via solar, via tidal, via nuclear, via conventional.
Yeah. There's lots of ways to make energy, but there's very few ways to build soil.
Our soil is depleted.
What's that?
And our soil is depleted already.
And and that's where it's needed the most.
Especially New England soils, right?
Yeah.
We just got glaciated. Everything got wiped off, and we have a really crappy soil.
Yeah.
And so we kind of need organic matter.
Yeah. So that's just where that conversation of renewable energy can get sidetracked and off course once that starts happening, and it's been happening. And what we build now is what we will use for the next 50 years. If you build an AD now and you invest $70 million in it, 50, whatever it is, you better bet that that is going to be well fed. So if we build compost sites, our state and region will be composting. And right now, it's getting a little late in the game, but we are building what we want. And again, it's the dollar and it's the voice that votes.
Yeah, and one line in the sand we're trying to draw is that residential food waste needs to go to composting.
Yeah.
Because when it goes to digestion, gets depacked, a lot of it ends up in the trash because residential stuff is high in bones, rinds, cobs, compostable packaging. So that would be bad to go to a digester. But at a compost facility, we can turn it all into finished product. So that's the line in the sand we're trying to draw. And that's what DEP is going to be banning next. You asked about the waste ban, right? It's at the half ton, it's coming down to the residential next. And so there's a decision, where's that material going to go? It needs to come to compost facilities. So
Yeah. And if you see the word compost on a bin, ask where it goes, because it might not be going to compost. So give us our word back.
I compost bones.
Yeah.
What about seashells? They're
That's
hard
all
to
good. That'll break down. The heat will break that down. Yeah.
How long it takes to build a composting facility?
This isn't. There's some in the Midwest. Some facilities, they're hundreds of acres. This is 3 acres. We can do a lot in a small amount of space.
1.7.
1.7 acres.
So it's not 3. But
Or no, I think she said, how long does it take to build one?
Oh,
So,
yeah. How long?
how long?
not that much time.
Starting at what point?
Oh yeah.
Oh, from scratch. Like, how long does it take?
I don't use garden as anything.
So we can build a facility in, a couple months, or like this took a year and a year and a half, but like it took 5 years to get the like political will and the contracts and the permits together to make it happen. But we're working with some towns. We hope to be able to roll them out in 2 years.
But having the resources and everyone agreeing, it would be like less than a year? Or a year?
Yeah, once the contract is signed and construction can start, yeah, it could be a couple months, 6 months, depends how much we have to do. Like we had to put 18 inches of gravel over this whole landfill.
So then landfills can be reutilized for composting.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, all the good ones got taken for solar panels.
And how about
So that again, another energy grab at land that was waste management.
and how about in the Romney Marsh? How about that landfill?
Where's that one?
At the Romney Marsh and the 1A.
It's like land
Saugus? I'd love to do that. Yeah, all day
Yeah,
long.
it's supposed to be closing. It's slated to close it 2027 November.
Who owns it?
Wind waste.
Who owns the landfill?
Wind waste.
Yeah, I mean, good luck.
But
Yeah, it depends what's in the
could
soils.
it be?
Yeah,
Could it be turned into a composting facility?
totally. Yeah, it'd be a great location too.
Well, I just wanted to make a comment. Back in the day when Janet and I used to go talk to state regulators or whatever, they used to be relatively impressed if you were representing more than just me, myself, and I. Does Black Earth, do you do any advocacy, any communications with your subscribers or membership people?
You're standing next to our municipal coordinator, so John's at
I know about
a town level.
coordinating municipalities.
Sure, I'll bring it
I'm
down.
talking about coordinating the unorganized rabble that will advocate to their legislators and their regulators to do this stuff.
Yeah.
Because in the day, that's what we used to have to do. We, number one, had to prove that it could be done. You've obviously done that by having these operating facilities. And like I said, Janet and I used to get a lot more buy-in on arranging meetings when we had a couple of hundred people behind us that were willing to say,
so
we want to do that.
I think we could summon the crowd and send them with torches, but there's nothing at the moment that there's no ask that's happening. Like there's no bill that we need pushed for, right? It's just kind of a general like, hey,
Yeah. So
That's what the people do.
number one, we've just officially written the commissioner saying I can't. Sorry, I'm repeating myself if you weren't here, but we want 0 by 2032. So they've floated the idea of we got to do residential, and they've gone from a ton to half a ton, and now we're saying it's time to go to 0.
Yeah.
What I will tell you, not to preempt the Q&A, which should be inside because I know people have been standing a while and sweating. What I learned today is I'm going to start plowing that ask with, diversion needs to go to composting, not AD. Which that's another layer, no pun intended, that we will add in because I think that's...
A thought on that concept was, so when we hit about 10 to 15% participation of a town, that's when things start to level off. And most people are just going, no one has to compost, but they're paying extra for it because they know the whole narrative. So I think that they could match kind of similar, half ton down to a quarter ton. Same with residential, but they do it off a percent of the town. So 2030 you need 10%, 2035 you need 20%.
My understanding from John is the reason they want to do zero is because it's easier for enforcement. They when they have truckloads that are going to multiple businesses and then they come, they can't really tell, did a business put more than half a ton in there?
Yeah.
Like there's definitely more than a half a ton, but it could have come from any number of businesses. Whereas by going immediately to zero, they obviously aren't going to find people over a banana peel, but it's much easier to see and track the truckloads that are violating.
My concern could be the contamination of enforcing it, but we have every town we have, John has the participation rate. We communicate that with the town, we have with the state. So based off our data of signups and the numbers that we take, we can prove those stats. Just a thought for you guys to consider. We'd love to be part of that community.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is so great. So I'm going to suggest, unless there's anything else you're going to show us out here.
Sure, there is just around that corner. We can find shade though.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Better days.
Copy in there, there's some materials.
You want to show us something back there too, though? If maybe on everyone's way out, we can walk back and down the hill and start from there.
So just a couple minutes in here, we'll walk back around and then we'll wrap up.
One more question.
Sure.
When you were down there, you were mentioning trucking the rubbish to distant places, but you barely mentioned incineration. So how does? I thought it was mostly incineration in
Good question.
Massachusetts.
So there's landfill, and so there was a question of like where trash goes in the state. So you can either landfill it, dump it in a hole, you're kind of done. Like it's still a linear system. When you take it to incineration, you burn it, but you're still left. It doesn't make all the material disappear, so you're still left with a massive pile of ash. I believe there's still. It's like you can burn 70% of the volume, but you still have 30% of that volume that needs to be landfilled because you can't re-burn it. So if you think of that narrative, it's trash trucked to incineration, set on fire, ash back into a truck, dumped into a train down to Alabama, train to truck to hole. So it still follows that export kind of full narrative. And then at the end, you're done. And you have to put a new fertilizer to grow food. Whereas compost, not only is it closer, but it also recirculates the nutrients you already have.
But just to know how much of what we throw in the trash goes to incineration versus
I think it's
landfill.
mainly.
I thought it was mostly incineration.
Yeah, I think it is.
We'll always have that.
Yeah.
Massachusetts.
Yeah, and I think we need some waste to energy, or like incineration, whatever you want to call it. I think there's some amount of trash you can never recycle. It just needs to like draw away. Yeah, but it just needs to draw away. The thing, like the difference between landfills, incineration, and composting is these are temporary solutions, right? Landfills have end of life. The ash landfills connected to incinerators have an end of life. Composting just keeps going, right? Stuff in, stuff out. Like we're not accumulating anything here. It's stuff in, turn into product out. So compost is a forever solution. Landfills, like we're standing on top of the temporary solution of 1960, which is like the local landfill.
We don't have a use
Here. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Question. Right now is obviously the ideal time to compost, but we're in New England and it's snowy and freezing for a good chunk of the year. How does the weather impact operations? And then also in that same vein with climate change, we just came through a heat stroke. Obviously piles have to be kept not too hot and not too cold to do their magic. So do you have troubles with like weather and climate change and maintaining year-round operations?
Yeah, we should let Cody answer that.
Compost doesn't care. Right?
Yeah, no, so yeah, the compost totally doesn't care. It's like those piles down in the building, most of the time are sitting at a nice 150, 155 degrees.
Wow.
Whether it's 100 degrees, the ambient temperature could be 15, it's not gonna change. They stay cooking down there. There is still problems with the weather itself, because when it's 5 degrees, it's harder to operate equipment. It's, just like general infrastructure, faces challenges when it's that cold. And then in the heat, piles, again, those are kind of staying the same out there. Up here, they dry out a little faster. So I have the back of some of these piles, once they come out of the building, I got like a sprinkler system so we can turn that on mid-turn to like kind of keep the moisture level correct. Otherwise, it just kind of stays static. It's almost like you're just turning it and like nothing's happened. Nothing's happening if it's just that.
And what do you do?
dry.
And I kind of know because I did a tour at the Groton facility. But what do you do? What do you use to check the temperature of the piles, and how do you know when the piles need to be rotated?
So down in the building, we have like automatic, like electric, cabled temperature probes that run to like a system on the computer in here. And with that, we can see like the blower pressures, we can see the temperatures of those piles. Everything in the building is going at like a fixed time frame. The material comes in, it has to move. So it's like those piles move every week. So after doing this here, specifically at this site for a couple of years, we've kind of got that system down pretty well, where now if that material is in there for a month, this stuff up here, like we pointed out earlier, is the material that's coming straight out of the building. That was from a week, so that stuff is a little extra dry, baking in that sun, but there's very little compostable plastic left. There's next to no food left. It generally smells all right, it's not that bad. And then as for up here, we got to kind of, without walking back outside and looking at the piles again, as they turn, the volume shrinks in the piles. So that kind of like enables us to take some piles and start combining them. We're over here, these two are 1 week, it's like 250 yards added together, whereas those piles down there on the end are like probably 350 yards, but those are, 4 of these guys, or whatever, 3 to 4 of these, so like it really does shrink. And then as for the actual turning regiment, it's just, toward the back end, they stay a little longer, maybe a couple weeks in between sitting and screening. These first few right here, these are still going every week for a few weeks.
I have a question. So the difference between my little compost bin at home, it doesn't get that hot. Is the reason you get it up to like the 150s is because just the sheer volume of it?
No,
Like
so
it can really...
in your backyard, you could get a pile that hot. You could do that. Like we could do it without forced air. I mean, really the biggest thing is air, and it's water. So if you're making this pile, you just want, if you leave it static, it'll kind of heat up and then just cool down and be like that'll be that until you crack it open, flip it, and give it more oxygen. If you had a little tiny blower on there, you could do that. And just be forcing the air into it. You could get the pile up, because some of these, they'll go up to 130 by accident.
And so do you use blowers that go into the piles?
Yes, so down below, there's a couple different blowers down there, but there's forced air in the 3 big windrows down below. Up here we do have, you kind of see, not really, over there around the corner, we do have other forced air up here, kind of depending on like the time of year, what the moisture level's like in the piles. Right now it's really, really dry. I don't use as much forced air in these smaller windrows before they get to curing.
I love compost.
Yes.
I can't compost meat, like bones and grease in there.
So yeah, you can.
Well, I have tried, and I think it doesn't work. And also the compostable like tableware, the spoons and forks, those take a long time in my little bin.
That's different, but you said meat.
Yes, meat, bones.
Yep,
Yeah.
you can compost that stuff. Why do we not? Because it's really, why do you not at home?
Right.
Because it's really hard to keep rodents out. So that's why Board of Health all day long says meat, dairy, bones does not compost. What they really mean is if you try this at home, you will get rodents.
Okay.
So, but yes, all that stuff does compost.
How about pet waste?
Oh yeah. If it was alive,
Pet waste.
it'll compost. But we don't compost that here because we're not legally allowed to.
I have a pet composter at home. It's called a pet dually. It's just a plastic thing. You dig a hole and then you put that over, and it's got a little flap that comes up. And you can purchase this like powder microorganism that helps it break down. And you just add water, and eventually over time the hole fills up, just like an outdoor outhouse would. And then I fill it in with topsoil, pack it down, and dig a new hole somewhere else in the yard.
And then the tree roots will then feed off that old hole. And so that is a great way to recycle those nutrients.
We're dog sitting this week, so that's my question. Are the little bags that they for the poop pickup, are those compostable in that facility that you
I
have?
actually don't use bags at all. I have a scooper. So it's a metal scooper that just scoops up, so I don't have to use bags at all. But when I just got a new kitten, that I'm not composting his waste yet, but eventually I would like to get compostable bags and then put that in the compostable bags and put the compostable bags into the little compost doggy poop.
Speaking of kittens,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to wrap this up, and I say speaking of kittens because if you didn't spend any time in the trailer, there is a little kitten. And I inadvertently didn't pay enough attention and stepped on his little paw, so be careful if you're in there. So we're going to walk out just in and where's Leanne? So community.